Podcasting from Astrolab Studios, this is Continuum Drag, a weekly podcast where we revisit sci-fi, fantasy, and just plain weird shows that have faded from the collective consciousness and didn't quite make the impact that they intended. This week, Tekwar, episodes 11 and 12.
Now how do I get her to talk?
You mean you can't charm your way to my lecherous heart?
Oh, this will make it easier. This is an alpha wave oscillator. It will stimulate your dormant personality and put Sabrina, the sculpted personality, into a sleep state. You'll be able to brief Cardigan because you'll remember everything that happened while Sabrina was dominant.
And what if she doesn't show up for the run-in?
Well, the data isn't conclusive. Hypothetically speaking, if you aren't released from the sleep state at regular 8-hour intervals, there is a danger that the sculpted identity might take over or cause permanent schizophrenia.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Continuum Drag. We're your hosts, Jordan and Luke. How's it going this week, Jordan? You ready for some more tech talk?
I am. I'm always ready for tech talk.
Well, that's good.
When did we decide it was tech talk?
I've been calling the show now Tech Talk in my head because that's all we talk about.
It's probably a title that helps people actually know what the show is more than Continuum Drag, which I was having a conversation with someone and I had to explain it to them about 3 times. And I said, what was it called? Continuum Drag. What was it called? So...
Well, that's fine. I mean, we wouldn't want the podcast to be too findable or anything.
Yeah, we don't want to be too popular.
All right, so I do have something, a game for us today. A game? Sure, a game.
Yeah.
What
it should be is literally it's just us playing a board game silently and just dead air.
Oh, cat eyes.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, Jordan. The year is 2018.
Yeah. Okay.
The studios are at the bottom of the barrel. They need something else they can reboot.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what time it is?
I'm guessing it's reboot Tekwar time.
It's reboot Tekwar time. What is Tekwar going to be for this 2018 $100 million franchise starter? Let's start with some casting.
Sure.
Who do you like for our star, Jake Cardigan?
The first person that comes to mind, and I don't know if this person actually makes sense, but I thought Carl Urban.
Carl Urban, interesting.
Yeah. I like him. I think he's good in things. Like, he doesn't necessarily make good choices all the time, which maybe would be a Tech War reboot wouldn't be a great idea, but I thought he'd be all right in the role.
And I think you're right. The things he chooses to do are probably in line with this. Really, there's only one guy that came to mind for me who kind of fit that kind of like jokester, alpha male-y kind of like whatever Jake is. Like, he's real suave, but he's kind of
that's what they want him to be. Yeah.
I thought was Chris Pine up to?
You know what's interesting about that? Both of us pick people that are in the Star Trek reboot.
That's true. I mean,
isn't that weird?
If you're an actor of a certain caliber today, you're in some sort of Marvel science fiction movie.
Yeah. I think Chris Pine's a good pick, though. I like him. He's a good actor.
Let's call it. I think Carl Urban was the right choice. I think it's the perfect casting.
Okay, so that's what we're gonna say.
I think that. All right, let's move on to Walter Bascom. We need somebody who is essentially playing a cameo. He's going to be in like 7 minutes of the actual runtime of this movie, but that means he needs to like have a certain gravitas. Like he needs to bring that Shatner equivalent to the movie.
Paul Giamatti.
Oh man,
would that be interesting?
That is an interesting choice. Who is a big celebrity who's an old man now, who, like Shatner, would not want to be in this show. And I just figured it would be Harrison Ford. Would like
right. Well,
barely,
you really are shooting for the stars.
He barely want to walk down the stairs, and then that'd be the end of the scene. I don't know. There's some interesting options. Paul Giamatti is, I think, the dark horse choice. That's a very strange choice. I don't know. Did you have of those? Did you have a strong preference?
I think Paul Giamatti.
I don't know. I'd still think maybe Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
I want this to be like a big big deal.
I'll give you Harrison Ford.
I mean, I'll say Paul Giamatti is the great character actor choice, but that's not what this movie's about.
Right. Okay. Oh wait, is this a series or a movie we're doing? This is a movie reboot.
Yeah, this is a movie reboot.
Oh, okay.
This is like
that changes everything.
This is Disney's new franchise.
Okay. Right.
Sorry, I should have been more specific. No. Yeah, no. This is a huge blockbuster film.
Oh, okay.
Let's get into Sid Gomez.
Yeah.
Who fills Sid Gomez's role in this movie?
My first thought was Michael Kenneth Williams.
Oh, interesting.
But I don't know if that would even be a good pick.
I mean, he's a good actor.
Yeah, he's a good actor, but I don't know. He might have trouble selling the donut love.
You're right. He doesn't maybe have the right something, this je ne sais quoi for the picture. Obviously, I was thinking blockbuster movie. So my two choices I thought were Kevin Hart, a little against type. He's going to have a lot of short jokes
actually,
now.
as you say, that's actually pretty funny. He's only going to get a couple lines, so you really need someone to sell those lines. I think Kevin Hart would do a good job at that.
Yeah.
He might be too big for that role, actually.
Well, he was in Jumanji, too. He might come out. And then I almost went with Ice Cube, but I realized that maybe the better choice was Ice-T.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just feel like Ice-T needs to have a little bit of a comeback, and he's different. Kevin Hart's much funnier. Ice-T is like more put upon the whole time.
I think I like Kevin Hart. I think that's a real real interesting choice.
Kevin Hart's probably the right call. Like him and the donuts. It's a good
So
call.
far, this is a really odd cast. A very expensive movie, I think, so far.
We've got Carl Urban as Jake Cardigan.
Yeah.
I forced Harrison Ford into the role of Walter Bascom.
Yeah.
Kevin Hart's Sid Gomez. For his other partner, who's going to play Sam Houston?
My first thought was Gina Davis, but I think Gina Davis might be too old now. But we all like Gina Davis, right?
She's good, but she is very old now.
I know she's very old, but she's old. She's older than Carl Urban.
I watched her in The Exorcist recently, which she's very good in, but it's going to be hard to imagine that Carl Urban and her are hooking up. Because Houston speaks Spanish, it's a bit of a badass. I went with Michelle Rodriguez.
Okay. So we're going to go with Michelle Rodriguez.
Is that who you like?
It doesn't really matter. So yeah, sure.
Great. I'm glad you're enjoying this.
Yeah, well, I just mean, how much do I have invested in this?
All right, Nika.
I have actually 4 people that it could be. And
Right.
and they're all drastic different.
Give me your first 2. I'll give you my 1, and then you give me 2 more. I'll give you my second.
Okay. My first is Amy Schumer.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that was Laura told me to pick Amy Schumer, and I think the idea was he's just someone who comes in the screen every now and then. It's a little bit annoying. So Amy Schumer, and then also probably too old. She's too old for the part, but just reminded me of Lori Petty. Remember Lori Petty?
I don't remember Lori Petty.
She was in Tank Girl, A League of Their Own.
Was she Tank Girl?
She was Tank Girl.
Oh,
Yeah, that's Lori Petty.
I had no idea. All right, I'll give you one of mine then. For Nika, this one is obviously probably a bit outlandish because I don't think we'll get her. But I said Jennifer Lawrence.
Wow, you're really swinging for the stars, huh?
Hey, man, this is going to be a big franchise. We love spinoffs.
Right, wait till you hear my next 2 picks.
All right, do it.
So after, let's just recap. You picked Jennifer Lawrence. I picked Linda Hunt. Do you remember Linda Hunt?
No. That Helen Hunt's sister?
No, here, let me show you a picture of Linda Hunt. You'll know who she is.
Oh, that's not bad, actually. That's,
It's different, right?
She's the lady from The Incredibles.
I just thought it would be a different turn.
Very different type.
Yeah. And then why don't you give me one, and I have one more.
My backup for Jennifer Lawrence was Sarah Silverman.
Oh, that's a good pick, actually. That's similar to my Amy Schumer idea.
Yeah, that's what when you said Amy Schumer, I'm like, oh yeah, that's the same line of thought.
Not to go too much about the Nika character, but the last one I thought is Zach Galifianakis. Gender, change the rule.
There's no reason not to.
Right?
Nika could be anyone.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe every movie it's a different Nika.
And now it's Nico.
Nico. I like Linda Hunt.
All right, let's go with Linda Hunt.
I think that's good casting. I think
All
it's a
right.
great idea. I like it a lot.
She have a little tiny chair. She's a very tiny woman.
Yeah, she's very little. She doesn't have to get up and move around a lot. She's just supposed to be at her computer working. It's very funny.
By the way,
having an old person be good with computers, it's a very funny bit.
This movie is really something.
It's good so far.
Yeah,
It's a good
good
movie.
so far. There's no script. There's no plot. Anything. But it's good. So, do we do a quick rundown of who this cast is?
I got one more.
Oh, we have one more. Is it Danny?
One more to cast. No, Lieutenant Winger.
Oh,
We can't have a movie without Lieutenant Winger.
my pick is Michael Shannon.
Oh, Michael Shannon as the robot.
Right?
That's interesting. I maybe went a little safer. I went with Vin Diesel or The Rock.
Wow.
Maybe less The Rock, but I think if you put either of them in those like forehead things, at least as robots, they'd be hugely jacked. Like you'd get like, it's like, oh, that robot was built
Right.
to do something
For fighting.
And then you
it
put
would
that
be weird though because
Neanderthal.
Winger never does anything physical really. So
I think you change it for the movie. Give him some more action.
okay, so let's do the rundown of. We don't have to pick Danny, right?
Oh,
Because
God,
we
no.
hate Danny.
He won't
he's,
be in the movie.
He's the Wesley of this
He
show.
won't be in the movie. I was just for Lieutenant Winger though. I think I will go with Michael Shannon. I think that's a good call.
Oh yeah, okay.
All right, we'll run down the cast right now, real quick. Jake Cardigan,
Is Carl Urban?
Walter Bascom,
Who did we go with?
Harrison Ford.
Oh, Harrison
This
Ford.
is the poster. These are like the
This is the poster.
two
Yeah,
names
yeah.
in the posters.
Yeah.
Like
They're at the top.
we got Sid Gomez is being played by Kevin Hart.
Oh yeah, I did like that.
Sam Houston is Michelle Rodriguez. I think
Right.
that's what we went. Right?
Yeah, I don't know if I like that, but it's good enough.
She's good. She's a badass.
Yeah, okay, sure.
I don't know. Nika,
Linda Hunt.
Linda Hunt, very against type, but I think it's gonna make for a good movie that way. Just
I
seeing
think
her,
I think it's gonna get the kids, the Snapchat generation.
kids love Linda.
They love Linda Hunt.
And then Lieutenant Winger.
That was Michael Shannon.
There you go, Michael Shannon.
I think that's a pretty good movie.
It's a pretty good movie.
So we're gonna start working on the script soon, right?
There's 2 more parts to this I want to get into.
Oh, good.
They're short.
It wasn't long enough.
They're short. Who directs? I'll give you my 4, and you can tell me which ones you like.
Okay, that's a good
I had
idea.
4 ones. 3 of them are basically the same. I thought it has to be some British guy. So I thought Danny Boyle,
Right.
Guy Ritchie, or Michael Vaughn.
Who's the last one?
Michael Vaughn, he does the Kingsman movies.
Oh, yeah. Forget him.
So I guess either Guy Ritchie or Danny Boyle.
I think it has to be Guy Ritchie. I think this is in his wheelhouse.
Great. And then I figure when Guy Ritchie drops out halfway through, we just get Rennie Harlan.
That's a great pick. I really enjoy that.
When Guy Ritchie eventually drops out, we just bring Rennie Harlan to finish it off.
I haven't heard that name in a while. That really tickles me.
And then I figure you can't reboot something and come up with a new story. You just have to steal from old stories. Is there a plot line? It would be the Tekwar reboot movie.
I think the episode that had the most potential that was clearly squandered by the TV show was the villain waking up in the freezer and them being all stuck in the building and having to get out before the place exploded. That episode, whatever episode that was, 4 or whatever. That would be the plot I would take.
Oh, interesting.
What did you think?
I
Because that's the answer.
wanted to find a way of combining Tech Posse with Deadline, the one where Winger loses his memory chip or his memory chip. Somehow get those 2 together, because then you have like him being in this like illegal posse while he's seeing Winger struggle with like the robot rights.
Sure. Sold.
I won't lie. I did think about the freezer episode where they have to escape. That is probably the like most movie-like episode we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen it a million times, but...
It's just Die Hard.
Exactly, right. It's also Dread, which Carl Urban was in, so he'd be fine with it.
Well, there you go. We can just repurpose the Dread script.
I like that movie.
All right, we'll do that one. It'll be the easiest.
Yeah, okay, done.
Great. Well,
you work on the financing.
That's it. We're making this Tech War movie. Hollywood, you know the number. All right. Now that we're through that, how about we get into episode 11, Deep Cover. A powerful mob family are determined to be the reigning family and get access to a nuclear arsenal. Jake's new partner agrees to infiltrate this family. Things go awry, and Jake has to try to save her from being killed.
Yeah, this was a weird episode, huh? I didn't know if the whole mafia thing
Quite meshed.
It didn't quite mesh, but
They bring it up, like, we'll get it, like, we start on the family. And I
Yeah.
don't know if you noticed this, the establishing shot of that mansion, they very carefully try to use some branches to obscure a Canadian flag flying over the mansion, but
Oh,
like
really?
not very well.
oh, I didn't look at. The only part I remember from the beginning is that she cuts a flower with a little laser,
Yeah.
little pocket laser.
Yeah, and
I
that
thought,
is-
oh, we're in the future.
That is the head of the Del Moro crime family, Cassandra, who's in it with, I guess, her brother Ian and then a cousin named Mikey, and then I guess that's the whole family.
Yeah, but it opens with her, that guy, and I know he's blah blah blah. He's an informant, and then she like kisses him and stuff. And I thought, I feel like I've seen this opening or a version of this opening at least 3 or 4 times, where there's a man and a woman, and they're kind of in some sort of pseudo erotic situation, and then someone dies. Like, how many times have we done that?
I thought the same thing, and then I realized I don't think that was supposed to be a romantic kiss. I think that was supposed to be like when the Godfather
Yeah, I
kisses you
know.
for betrayal. I didn't get that.
Yeah, because then also like the guy's got like, it looks like blood on his lip, and I was like, what? She bit him?
I missed that. The things we do get to learn about this family is, and I guess this is why they're the only mob family, is they survived the gang war of '98.
Yeah, I like that.
And yeah, there's sort of a battle of wills between Cassandra and I think her brother Ian. They never specify who he is. They do say all he wants is Flass, though.
All he wants is Flass?
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but at some point she says all he wants is Flass while she's talking to her VR dad she visits all the time.
Oh yeah, they also really tried for those Godfather type scenes, and they're not very good.
Yeah, she has a dead father who she visits for advice in a VR simulation that maybe is tech. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Which was an interesting idea that they didn't execute very well, which was the idea of this person who's running this crime syndicate who's still getting advice from well, not even getting advice from her dead father, getting advice from a simulation of her dead father because she's clinging to the past. There's something interesting there, but they just kind of throw it in every now and then.
Yeah, I mean they toy at it because like her brother's trying to make deals with tech lords, like the tech lord who runs New Cuba.
Oh yeah, I laughed at that because I wrote a note and it said, I hope there's an Papa Old Guinea in this world. New Cuba.
You don't need New Cuba.
You don't need the new in there.
Yeah, there's some ideas that there's like a battle of contrast, but it never comes up like at all. But yeah, there's an informant in the organization. It turns out it's a Cosmos agent, and they go get the mind probe to figure out what he's up to. And then we flash forward to Cosmo, where it's Houston's first day.
And she's complaining. Do you know she was complaining right away about not having a parking spot? And I thought, I've worked with this person before. They start and they're just pissing and moaning right away. The only thing that would have made it me enjoy that was if she started and was all arrogant, and then Jake was like, "Oh wait, no, you're like an intern here," and he like made her go get her coffee or something. But she gets to start right at the top. She's already pushing Nika around.
I guess so. I mean, she is complaining about a parking spot, and that payroll put her in as Samuel Houston, and they think she's a man. At which point, both Jake and Nika make a joke about her having a dick.
I don't even think I caught that.
Jake says something like, "Oh, is that what's under that dress?"
Oh yeah,
and
right.
then Nika.
By the way, Jake's a pig.
But then Nika turns around and she's like, there's a surgery to fix that.
Right.
Like, I'm just like,
yeah.
oh, they're both like awful.
She's walked into a very poisonous work environment.
Like HR is not liking any of this.
Well, it's probably Bascom, and he's nowhere to be seen. By the way, we can just mention this now. Shatner again, not in this episode, and not in the next episode. So he's been missing for what, 8 episodes? 6 episodes?
Maybe even 10. We do briefly get a mention that there's a Lisbon office of Cosmos, so I kind of wonder if he's just in the Lisbon office right now.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Maybe he's just off the Lisbon office. Anyway, after Houston finishes complaining about her first day, the undercover officer wanders into Cosmo. He's got like a device on his neck, and he's just like, "I've been wired. Like, don't come near me. My cover was blowing."
But he walks all the way over there.
Yeah, they let him walk out to, and I was like, "Oh, his head is gonna explode."
It would have been better.
But no, like they just use a weird, cheap shockwave effect, and he kind of flies across the room.
Yeah,
and he's dead. I guess.
So they still haven't topped that robot that's face turned to spaghetti. That's still the best moment so far in Tekwar.
Yeah,
sorry. That's the second best moment. The first moment, the best moment is the kid running and then getting shot while playing basketball.
Your favorite moment.
That's my favorite moment
show.
in television.
So now that this guy is dead, for some reason, they think they need to put another officer under deep cover, even though you would assume the family would be very suspicious.
But don't worry, they're not.
Oh, yeah, don't worry, they're not. But thankfully, they have a great idea. At first, I thought they were going to send Jake in. I'm like, Jake is the most recognizable person on this crew. Yeah. But it does make more sense. They're like, oh, we'll send Houston in. We have this great new technology called mind sculpting, where we'll put a personality on top of her personality, so she won't even know that she is Houston.
I at first got excited because I thought, oh, this is like their Q. The guy who was doing their thing, I thought he was like an on-site James Bond-esque guy.
Yeah, he's like a cool scientist.
That's what I thought. But he's not really. And then obviously was,
later we learn he's a contractor at best.
Yeah, exactly. And a very shady one that no one does any background information on. It was an interesting idea, if not an insane plan to have done we're going to alter your personality. It might change you forever, but let's give it a whirl. And then, of course, the writers have to add in that same sort of little time restraint like they did with the Winger episode, which is, every 8 hours she's got to check it with Jake. Or
yeah, Jake has to put the secondary personality to sleep and bring Houston back out to ask her questions, or she'll get schizophrenia.
I would say, okay, we can't do this. 8 hours is not good because a million things could happen and have her not make that.
I know. I wrote, that seems worth it.
Yeah. And a couple things to note. One, the way they have her constantly need to meet him for every 8 hours is
she needs a smoke break.
She needs a smoke break, and there's one close bar that you can get cigarettes at.
She's addicted to cigarettes. That's how they're going to get her away from them so she can go get a smoke.
And the second thing to note is the little
the alpha wave oscillator.
Oh my gosh. It's the weirdest thing, and he rubs it on her head, and she's looking like she's enjoying it, and it's very weird, and I was like, oh guys, this is gross.
I wrote it down later when he first does that interaction, because he gets this alpha wave oscillator, which is supposed to put the secondary personality sleep and let the dominant personality come back out. Her personality is she's a bad guy. She's like, it's her dark side. And like
So she fights all the time.
So she fights. So he has to actually like get so close to her, he rubs it on her head. So they get in a fight. I was just like, this is the worst idea. Shouldn't it just be like a remote control you push? Why do you have to rub it on her head? Like she doesn't want...
And he has to physically like attack her to hold her so that he can very weirdly rub this vibrating thing all over her head.
Yeah, it was. I was like, this is the worst plan. Like,
I was sure it was going to be a button. Though. I was with you. I was like, oh, she'll press a button, and then I was like, what? He has to every day, every 8 hours, he has to physically restrain her.
Yeah, he has to assault her and rub this rock on her head, and then she'll come back out. Before we move on from this sculpting thing, how much would you be willing to bet that this episode and this plot is personally responsible for the entire season of Star Trek Discovery? It's the entire premise of the series where someone puts a secondary personality on top of another personality.
But here's the thing. I can't believe I'm going to say this. Tekwar did it better than Star Trek Discovery did. And if at least for the one reason, it was done in one episode. It wasn't stretched out for the most god-awful season you could ever watch of this stupid character that I don't care about. I'm sorry, I'm going to get very... I hated that Klingon character and his nonsensical human personality. And, Mama, I'm a human, I'm a Klingon. No one cares. Go away. And even the writers didn't know what to do with it. At the end, they're just like, he's going to fly away or something. This was the exact same plot, but at least this was done in an episode. You knew Houston would be back.
Well, I do think they put in about the same amount of thought as to how the technology worked.
Yeah.
And how they would use it. But yeah, you're right. At least it was done in one episode. But at any rate, now we get to meet Houston's new personality, Sabrina Daniels. She's a badass in all leather.
Can I mention one line that made me laugh? At one point, she's acting all tough because you're saying she's a badass, and then she goes, "He didn't want me to take the fall, so he fingered me." And I had to stop because I was just laughing my ass off.
She has some amazing. Her badass self has amazingly bad lines.
Yeah,
as bad.
And she has to wear tight leather pants too, because as a villain, of course you do.
Melanie pointed this out to me as we were watching. She's in all leather. Now that's how you know she's a bad guy. And she's wearing a leather jacket with no shirt. Mm-hmm. And then she has these leather pants that have
holes in them. Yeah,
holes down the side that Jake will later call peekaboo pants.
Yeah, I know.
It's quite a look. And she's always trash talking, but this was her trash talk to Jake. She called him a lame brain.
Is that what she said?
Like when he's like handing, because Winger shows up to arrest her as part of their plan to get her like into the Lamo crime family. She like turns to Jake. She's like, "You're a lame brain." I'm like, good trash talk.
Yeah, that's like an insult I'd come up with when I was a kid. Little quick side note, a little story. I was fighting with my brother once when we were younger, and we were just getting in an argument, and he said something mean to me. I can't remember what it is. And so my comeback to him was, "Count your blessings." And it stopped the argument because he just pointed and laughed at me, and I just walked away in shame because my comeback was, "Count your blessings." I was like, you should appreciate everything that mother and father do for us. Anyways, it wasn't a good one. Yeah.
That was pretty good. That's a real action movie one line.
Yeah. Count your blessings.
Yeah, so now we have Sabrina, the badass Houston. Winger's in on it, so he's going to help.
Well, sort of. He's
sort of in on it. He and Jake have her arrested for some sort of crime she's committed, so she can be put in the same laser cell as Mikey Delamo, like a cousin of the family. It's an interesting idea because like she doesn't know she's an undercover officer. Like it's she's supposed to be this actual other person, but they put her in the cell. The first thing she does is she's like, "You're part of that crime family. I want a job." Like she doesn't beat around the bush. They don't even get to know each other.
Yeah.
The first thing she out of her mouth is, "Give me a job and I'll break you out of here." And he's just like, "Okay."
Yeah. Well, I think he's the loser of the family, to be fair.
He is the runt. He's dressed in a zoot suit.
He is. For this plan to work, though, everything has to happen exactly as they plan it. He has to know that every 8 hours she will go to that exact bar, and that she's going to do every step she takes will lead to the next step that they've already planned. The chance of that happening is so small that it's crazy. The idea of putting in someone else's personality alone is a dumb idea. But then to go, well, this person needs to hit A, B, C, D, E along the way, that's never going to happen. But of course it does because it's Tekwar.
Somehow it does.
Somehow it does.
Somehow the writing makes it happen.
Yeah.
They perform a prison break here where they beat up Winger, and I'm sure you'll put something up on Instagram because I think you already showed it to me. It looks like the actor literally made a choice. He's like, this person could never beat up a robot, so my character is just going to like, oh,
He
you
crumples.
hit me, I'm falling over.
Yeah.
I was just like, he's barely trying to like play along with this plan.
Yeah. I think maybe we can assume that they think that Zoot Suit guy is not too bright, so they only have to kind of give half an effort.
It's true, but you think Sabrina, who's also not in on it, really, like,
Right.
Like they don't even. They're like, "Oh, you escaped. How did you do that?"
She doesn't now know that they're in on the plan. What if she grabbed another gun that just
Killed someone.
and that's the end of the plan? But no, it all works out perfectly well.
It's fine. It's all fine. Anyway, this kind of leads into, which I didn't fully understand, but he introduces her to the family. For some reason, this Sabrina character knows they're planning a heist. At no point did anyone mention that anyone knew they were planning a heist.
I think the implication is they're a crime family. They're always planning
a heist. And their heist is to break into Keurig, presumably the coffee pod company.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
in the future,
they've made a lot of wise choices in the next 20 years.
Well, Keurig has an arsenal of nukes and laser tanks.
Yeah, same Keurig.
That the family wants to steal because they're going to use it to help tech lords in some way. This whole thing didn't make sense to me. I was like, if you, as a mafia crime family, steal a bunch of nukes, your problems aren't going to be intimidating other crime lords. Your problems are going to be world governments coming to get their nukes back. Like, you're not making your lives easier. You're making your lives so much more difficult.
Well, you're wrong. Clearly, you're wrong. That's Tekwar. Stop trying to put logic into it.
It just seemed like aiming way too high as far as the arsenal they were going for.
Right.
And of course, they can use Sabrina Houston because she's an expert hacker somehow, something we haven't seen before, and also a security expert.
So they gave her this personality that has all these skills and she's great and blah, blah, blah. But they mentioned this is based on a real person, right? Because they mentioned the back history is her father used to work for the family. Conceivably, they would have known who her father is, right?
Well, I think the idea was they implanted that concept into her head. I thought that was a huge flaw in the plan. It's just like, wouldn't they be able to determine?
That's what I mean. I assumed, because even she's like, my father worked for you. And they were like, oh, okay. So I was like, oh, I guess she must be pretending to be a real person. Because I thought that was going to be the reveal. They were going to see a picture or something and go, that's not Sabrina.
I don't think that was the case. I think it was just like they were going to trust her because their dads knew each other, but like also not look into it any further than that. And we kind of now at this point, Jake has his first check-in where he goes to this smoke bar. And again, these smoke bars are so stupid. Like he buys her a 92 cigarello, a cigarello from 1992. That is going to be the grossest thing. No one is going to enjoy. It's 2045. That is a 50, almost 60-year-old cigarello.
Preserved lovingly in someone's pocket of their jacket.
Again, she should immediately recognize Jake as the guy who helped get arrested.
I know. And she
can't
doesn't
tell if she does or not. Like he
No, she
tries
doesn't.
to give her the cigarello, and she has a great line here though, where she like pulls her gun out and sticks it under the table and basically points at him from under the table, like that classic move. And then she says to Jake, she's like, because she doesn't trust him, she's like, I'm gonna light your balls up like a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's pretty good. That's
Yeah,
pretty
you thought
good
that was
line.
good?
That was a good line.
I didn't think it was good.
You didn't? No. Well,
I'll tell you what was a good line is at one point she goes, my mind is bleeding into her subconscious. And I just thought it sounded like a Slayer song. That was a good line.
yeah. Well, and that's a very important thing because after this check-in, where after she's like gets a rock rubbed in her head or whatever,
Yeah.
a vibrator rubbed in her
It's
head.
really weird and
He
uncomfortable.
updates. She updates Jake what's happening, and then she turns back into Sabrina, and it's really weird. There's a 2-stage thing to break into this arsenal. First, they have to break into a different place and get a access key.
Did you notice, though, that in the future that we've seen in a lot of episodes now, the doors are much easier to break into than even now? We've seen people kick open doors, punch panels to open doors. They've evaporated doors with things. I mean, I don't know what the people just shot the panels.
They shoot the panel all the time and it opens the door. I'm just like, wouldn't that just break the opening mechanism? Didn't you just break the door?
Yeah, but no, it always opens everything. In the future, it's much easier to break into places.
But yeah, as she's doing this break-in, that's when her mind starts to bleed. And Sabrina doesn't know why, but she knows someone is following them. So she warns the crime family who's with her, at which point Jake and Winger break in. Winger's now not on the same team anymore. He's like, I'm going to arrest them. So Jake like foils Winger and they get away.
Didn't it feel like they kept setting up that Sabrina / Houston and the mob boss woman were going to be kissing and having a relationship at some point? Didn't it feel like they kept kind of hinting at that, but then just backed away?
I don't know. I mean, the thought crossed my mind because when they leave this first heist, the first part, I don't know why there's parts of this heist, but the first part of this heist, they go back and they're throwing a house party in the middle of the heist. Maybe for alibis, probably just they don't know what to do with these characters. But it's a big house party, and the two of them have a moment together where I think the ideas were supposed to get their bonding. Like these are like they had similar backgrounds and like they're like, but they do get really close and kind of shoot it with a soft filter. Like they kind of make it a little romantic. I don't think the actors ever go there with it, but like you can feel like maybe somewhere along the way it was like, maybe just make it seem like something might happen there. Some like cigar chomping.
I like that
producer in an edit room.
I like him. Yeah, let's hear a little more. Let's hear a little more of that guy.
I'm never gonna get back to that voice now. Just make it look a little more seedy for me.
Hey, someone ice the nipples. That's what he says.
But they do use this weird relationship to, I guess, this is totally pointless to the story, but Cassandra tells the story about how her dad and mom were killed in front of her and how when she was like 13 and had to take over the crime family. Is
that what she said? She was 13?
Yeah, she said she was 13 and her mom and dad were killed in front of her by another crime person. And then she tells the story about how 4 years later, she tracked them down and she choked to death the man who killed her dad, choked to death his wife also.
Oh, yeah.
Did that in front of their daughter and then choked their daughter to death.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is a weird story we're hearing about. I guess we're just supposed to know how dangerous she is or how hard this life has made her. It doesn't amount to anything. It's just like filling time in this episode.
I think the character just had a bad sense of humor, and that was a funny story she was telling.
Let me tell you this hilarious anecdote about my past.
Yeah. She's like, what's worse than a giraffe with a sore throat? What if I strangle 3 people to death? That's a good joke.
You get it, right? You
get it, right?
But then we cut away from this, and Mikey's at the party, and he's getting a call, which is like the one thing I wondered is he's getting a call from an informant he has in the police force who recognized his old coworker when she was brought in and arrested. It's like, yeah, of course a police officer at the police station is going to recognize Houston who quit last week.
Yeah, basically the writers are going at this point, oh yeah, by the way, this is a terrible idea that we've just invested 40 minutes into.
It was really funny because as soon as she got brought to that jail, I'm just like, didn't she, like in my back of my head, I was like, she used to work there. That's weird they brought her to her old job. But it's fine. I was like, maybe it'll work out. It didn't. It was a good callback to the idea that she quit her job last week and people would still recognize her at the police station.
Yeah. So how long does it take till Jake starts choking her?
We're getting very close because from here out, they have another smoke break. Jake gets a little more information about what's going on. But because they know, the crime family knows she's an informant or she's a mole or whatever, they're able to figure out this doctor guy sculpt her mind, so they kidnap him, and he just like tells them everything.
Yeah, it was pretty quick.
Like, it was really weird. He's just like, yeah, let me tell you exactly what I did.
I like Jake's angry at him, essentially being like, you lied about like how dangerous this was, even though he only marginally lied about it. He said it. He told him it was dangerous. He just didn't say how dangerous. Yeah,
like
it was like it's a 70% chance she'd die. It was actually an 80% chance. Like,
after the crime family's killed him, Jake goes to his lab and he finds out, oh, she's the first person he's ever tried this on.
Yeah.
And I was like, fair enough. I mean, you got to start somewhere. And obviously Cosmo does no research.
And they just pay every bill.
At which point, Mikey from the crime family shows up. Jake has to fist fight him. They break the oscillator. So now there's no way to get her out of the Sabrina character. And then they're like, Winger arrests the guy. I don't even know. Like, I guess Winger just shows up. The only part I liked about it was like Winger arrests the bad guy. And Jake's really mad because he wants to keep talking to him. And Winger's like, well, just talk to his attorney. Yeah. And Jake hates that. He hates the idea that he has to talk to this man's attorney.
Do things by
he
the
can't
rules.
just beat him in a back room.
So eventually Jake and Sam, they get in a little karate fight.
Yeah, well, now Jake basically rushes off to stop them from stealing these nukes, and he confronts Sabrina/Houston. She's 4 hours past her 8-hour limit now, so she's like getting schizophrenia. That was implied. What is funny, Jake does the same thing that Cassandra does. You think Cassandra would, once finding out that she's a cop, would kill her, but both Jake and Cassandra, the crime lord, separately just talk to her. They're like, hey, just stay your personality. Just choose which personality you want. I'm just like, I don't think that's how that works. But they both just like have a conversation with her. They're like, but for Jake in particular, this is what you're referring to, is he's fighting her, trying to convince her to do this. And it just seems like he's not getting through to her. So he wraps his hands around her throat in what looks like he's killing her. Like he's just going to put her out of her misery.
This is the second time he's choked her. Second time. Because he choked her in the episode with the red guys creating mayhem. You know what it was? It was she spits in his face. That apparently is the...
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, she spits in his face and is like, that's it. That's enough.
Like, he literally looks like he's killing her. And then for whatever reason, when he starts to choke her, she just turns back to Houston.
Yeah, because...
For no reason. I'm just like, so she's not going to have schizophrenia? Like, they level this threat of schizophrenia, and now, like, she's able to turn off one of those personalities.
It would be great if they left the character all weird and she had two personalities for the rest of the show, but you know that's not going to happen.
Houston kills Cassandra, and
like we're supposed to feel bad for her. I don't, because I don't care.
The show's over, and I did the math at this point. I'm like, oh yeah, maybe 28 hours has passed.
Right.
So much has happened. 28 hours has passed.
Think she's getting overtime for that? Probably, right?
Presumably. Like her expense report will be huge.
Well, you know he's put in for lunches again, probably.
But yeah, that's the episode. It
was boring.
It wasn't the worst episode of Tekwar, but like it just didn't make a lot of sense.
And that's it. That's that episode.
That's the episode. You want to move on to episode 12?
Yeah, please.
Episode 12, Cyber Hunt.
Well, GSS wouldn't rope off a whole sector for nothing. I mean, they must not want that item to be found.
Maybe they're the ones who lost it in the first place.
Yeah, but they would never admit it. It's too embarrassing.
Which means it's a cover-up, which means what?
Which means that we've got to find the treasure first and go public with it. Once it's out in the open, GSS can't touch us, because it would only make them look worse.
Right. So let's hit the cyber trail again.
Nika ends up on the wrong side of the law while helping an old friend. Jake needs to help her get out of harm's way.
Is that it? Is that the whole...
This is the shortest synopsis that we've had so far, which is fair, because this episode fucking sucked.
Yeah, it really did. This episode had an exhausting amount of cool hipster lingo that made me want to scratch my eyeballs out. Like, it starts right off the beginning where like sludge, kilo sludge. You're like, I don't know what they're talking about. I appreciate that they're going for the idea that language changes and that there's always new and different cool words and stuff, but it's just exhausting to listen to. And I hated fake Skeet Ulrich so much, who just kept coming out. I just like, I don't care. Stop talking this way.
Yeah, I mean, essentially this episode is a Nika episode. Off the top, we get a quick line about how they have some new information about Rossi, who was the tech lord who had...
He's back.
Yeah. What was her name?
Cleopatra or something like that.
Carlotta.
That's the one. Yeah, I was right.
Yeah, Rossi, who had Carlotta trapped in that jar. And
no, you wanted her to be trapped, a brain in a jar, which would have been better.
And, Jake was enjoying abusing her and his power.
Yeah, that was awful.
But so he's excited because he's going to get back at Rossi. But really, it's not about that. It's about Nika getting together with her old friend Fab.
Yeah, he's the
who's
worst.
Another hacker, and he's got this upside down V that's a goatee on his face. He's
the poor man Skeet Ulrich.
It's a rough episode. I've broken it down as best I can here. Essentially, Fab shows up. A, he brags about hacking Rossi.
Yeah.
B, he wants Nika's help because he's trying to hunt a treasure on the internet. Apparently, the government has lost 8 million credits worth of transuranic bullion that they lost after they confiscated and they're transporting. So he's going to try to find it, and he needs Nika's help to do it because she's such an expert hacker. And then we kind of get this sub thing is that Rossi is mad that someone broke into his system. So he hires this wirehead named Logan, which is the first time we're hearing about wireheads. Yeah. But he's a hacker who can just touch a computer because he has like shit in his face. Like he has like wires.
It's not. It's wirehead. That's what he has. wires in his head.
Wires in his head. He has all this like tech junk jammed into his face.
And so
this poor
somehow he has the
actor.
power to. Well, I don't know how that's helpful, by the way, to his hacking ability. That he also can. He can just create a surge in the electricity.
He can just touch a computer
and wreck it.
And
wow.
Yeah, I don't.
My parents can do that too. Yeah.
Nailed him.
Nailed it.
Yeah, so that kind of sets off the whole show. Like there's a couple fun scenes. Not good scenes maybe, but fun scenes.
Are there? I don't know if I remember any.
Like right off the bat, because Jake and Houston are so excited to get Rossi, they follow up on this lead, and this lead is this old associate. And what they do is they track him down to this black market area, and they find that he's, what do they call them? Tissue tuggers have reformed his whole body into a different muscles, different shape. Like he's a different race now. Like that's the implication that these like people are able to do this much stuff. But they're able to recognize him because he still has those same old habits. And those habits are he likes to buy black market violent vids, which the woman selling them to says she's got some sweet merchandise for him, which are an uncensored director's cut of Christmas Massacre 4 on Laserdisc.
And by the way, was that the size of Laserdiscs? Because that was humongous.
That's what it was, an actual Laserdisc.
Is that
it's
what
1994, so Laserdiscs are probably still around. So she hands him a Laserdisc, and then she also has for him a vintage pair of Schwarzeneggers, which are 2 VHS cassettes.
He's very excited about it.
The implication is you can't buy movies anymore. Like this is the black market.
Well, maybe it's like it's the you can't buy them on that format anymore.
Right.
Maybe that's what it was.
And basically what they learned from this guy is Rossi's in financial trouble. He's going broke. And what's happening is when Logan and Rossi figure out where this fab guy is, who now is hanging out with Nikki, they hear, because they hack surveillance cameras, I guess. They basically hear they're hunting this like $8 million treasure. And Rossi's like, oh, don't kill them now. Let's just let them find the treasure, and then we'll go take the treasure because I need the money.
Right.
Like that's kind of the premise. Did you notice when in the scene where he like learns about that, they're at the diner and they
when they pick on that waitress
and they pick up they're supposed to be like these like anti-establishment hackers, but they're just kind of like dicks.
Yeah.
Like the waitress puts the wrong drink in front of the wrong person. So what they
she
do,
doesn't even get the order wrong.
No,
She
the
just
order's
it'd
right.
be like you ordered a milkshake and I ordered a Coke, and she gave you the Coke and me the milkshake,
Yeah.
and they're like really ticked about it. It's like,
And
guy, just slide the cup across the table.
Well, and they even tell her to switch the drinks for them. Like they won't even, and she's just like, why don't you just pass them back and forth? Like she doesn't do it. She just kind of like goes, why don't you just do it yourselves? So they hack the diner, take their money for these drinks back, cheap.
Yeah.
And then
yeah, they are cheap.
And then B, they like blow up the woman's iPad that she uses to take orders.
What if you blew off her hands?
It's just such a dick move, and Nika's laughing it up.
I know.
Like
I hate Nika.
Both of you people are awful. Whatever happens this episode, you deserve it.
Can we talk about one scene? And I might just jump around because we can go through this because this episode was terrible. There's a scene where Jake and Houston need to get into the bank.
Yeah, that's the next scene.
Oh, is it really? Oh, great. Well, I love that the whole plan makes no sense.
Yeah.
So
essentially, from this guy, they know he's going broke. So they're like, let's talk to this person who works at a bank who I guess maybe handles Rossi's money. I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But they're hoping they can find like his payroll to find, I don't know what.
Something. It doesn't
It doesn't make
matter.
sense. But yeah, their plan is the dumbest plan.
Well, so she gets on a voice changer and pretends she's a computer system, which she's just assuming that's what their computer system sounds like. That's saying there's a delivery, so the woman will come out.
Yeah, she'll leave her desk to
Okay,
delivery.
so Jake can sneak in. Okay, it's very Looney Tunes, but sure, that's how it works. But then the woman comes back while Jake's on his computer, so then he pretends to be like an aggressive burglar.
Yeah, he puts
so
a
that
gun
Houston,
to her head and says he's going to blow her brains out.
so that Houston can come save the day. But I thought, why didn't he just grab her to begin with? Why did they even have to do the voice changer? There was no point to that at all.
She comes in, she beats up Jake, as every episode they get in a fight.
Yeah.
Like, and another fake
They
plan
really do
fight.
every single episode.
And then she tells this woman who she has saved, she's like, hey, I work for your boss, Rossi, too. That guy didn't take any information, did she? And the woman's like, oh, no, here, come look at all the information.
And then she apparently has a watch that has a camera in it.
It's like an old spy watch.
Yeah, she has an old spy watch.
Like, it's not a hacking. She just, like, takes photos of the screen. The whole plan is very complicated, and this woman, like, doesn't question anything. She's like, okay, I guess you work for my boss. Let me show you all the information. I don't know what they were looking for, but they happen to get lucky, and they see this wirehead Logan's name on there, so I guess that helps them. It's unclear. Like, that's the only information they get out of it.
They know they're connected. That's basically
I
the
guess
point.
that's it. They know they're connected. And we jump back to Fab and Nika, who are searching for they're looking for a shipping manifest on the internet to figure out what happened to the money, the bullion. It's a silly idea, but they run literally into a firewall while she's hacking.
I know.
She is
who
flying
wrote this?
through the Matrix. She hits a glowing ball, falls out of her chair, and is knocked unconscious because she hit a firewall.
Their version, their Matrix, which is the internet. So their version of the internet is essentially the same as Disclosure. Do you remember that movie Disclosure?
I do.
It was a terrible movie. And
great book, though.
Was it
No.
Michael Crichton, wasn't it?
No.
But do you remember how the internet was shown? It was like they had CGI bodies and their heads were on the top, and I was like, "That's the internet."
Yeah, they'd open filing cabinets in the computer.
This is the
space.
same idea of how the internet works. It's there's a big ball, that's a firewall, and don't hit it because it's the sun.
Right, but by hitting the firewall, they alert the government because they're sloppy hackers, and we get fan favorite Grout's back.
She has, by the way, the best scene in the entire show. Do you know what it is?
Oh, I do.
What is it?
We're getting to it because she arrests them with her lackeys, her government agents. Of course, Rossi and Logan are watching they've been tracking the whole time. So like, we have to help them escape so they can get to the treasure so we can steal it from them. So they like hack a door so most of her agents gets locked behind it. So now it's just Grout, Nika, and Fab. Fab runs off. And Grout reaches. She's wearing a skirt, like probably thigh-high skirt, and it's not like she reaches down and pulls a gun that's strapped to her leg off. Like that would make sense. She reaches up her dress in the most awkward fashion and seems to pull a gun
out of her. You know what?
I mean, there's nothing else it could be. Like
I know.
It doesn't make sense that it's strapped to her leg.
Literally,
the way she
it
pulls
looked
it
like
out.
it was done as like a Austin Powers-esque gag, like this sort of over-the-top, kind of gross, dumb thing where like, oh, where's the gun, or like a Leslie Nielsen-esque sort of thing, you know. But that's not how it was done at all. It was like, oh, that's where she keeps her gun. Women, right?
It was. I mean, I don't know what it was. It was the craziest thing. I mean,
funny.
The most amazing thing. Like,
that was by far the best thing in this episode.
There's two parts in this episode. There's this and there's something later, but these are like the
best. I know what it is too.
The best parts of the episode. Jordan will 100% put that on Instagram because it is worth watching.
And that's all you need
over and over again. At any rate, she reaches up her skirt.
It's terrible.
Pulls a gun out. Nika knocks her unconscious and they run off, basically. Yeah. And like the only reason I mentioned she knocks her unconscious is because the next scene she shows up at Cosmo's Grout and she's just like, I need to find Nika. She's like doing these things. She's a huge black eye. Like, it looks pretty bad. And Houston and Jake are just laughing it up. They think it's her being assaulted is the funniest thing they've ever seen.
Because they hate her so much.
Because they are horrible human beings. But yeah, essentially, like, now they know Nika's in trouble. So Jake goes and gets that hacker Cowgirl.
Yeah, Cowgirl's back. And then Cowboy, I don't know his name.
No, he's a new partner. That's not the same guy. That's a different guy. I actually was just like, oh, this guy.
I don't remember what the other guy was.
The other guy just looked really skeezy.
Oh.
And this guy was kind of personable. I was like, oh, I like this new partner she got. I think what we're learning from this hacking thing is you need someone who goes into the VR and you need someone who
stands there,
runs the computer beside them for some reason. We see that a lot this episode.
Yeah, that's true.
And what basically happens is they hire her and it's like a Matrix chase. Like, she flies around. It looks
like they're playing
Matrix
Pac-Man.
Through two, like, it's literally a series of tubes, their Matrix. The actual visualization is a series of tubes. So she's flying through tubes and she's literally chasing Nika through internet traffic, I guess. And she's just like, I just need to get close enough so I can hail her. And hailing her is just like, she's able to just talk to, like, it's like if I was running down the street after you, I just had to get close enough so you could hear my voice.
Yeah, I know.
And when he calls after her, there's this moment where Nika was like, she's not sure if this is a trick or something. So Jake starts saying things that only Nika will know is true. And the only thing that mattered was, you hate my jackets.
Oh, yeah, I did notice that.
I was like, yeah, we all hate your jackets, Jake.
Yeah.
But
she also was listening to Bloodbath by the Deletions.
Oh, yeah, that was the other thing. Bloodbath by the Deletions. Anyway, so she's like, oh, it's Jake. I guess I'll talk to him. But for whatever reason, I don't understand it. Like, I guess Rossi doesn't want them talking because then Jake will talk her out of doing what she's doing or something. Anyway, Logan sets off a feedback bomb that explodes the entire office, but it's just through the internet. Like, it's like,
I have to say,
you sent a virus and it exploded the office.
I think when we eventually decide we're not going to watch a show anymore and we take the escape pod, we should send it off in a feedback bomb. What do you think?
You want to shoot a feedback bomb back at the series?
Exactly.
All right, I'm down. Anyway, it was just a weird scene. Like, it really doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't get them any closer to finding each other. We go to commercial break, and we come back to, this is not the first time they've done this, but this is like a Tekwar kind of writing technique if you get stuck. We come back, and Houston and Jake are walking through the sewers, and they're like, we got an anonymous tip. We got to go meet someone. And I'm just like, all right, I guess that's fine. That'll push the plot forward. An anonymous tip that leads you to the sewers.
What I wrote was, I don't know why they're there, nor do I care.
No, there's no reason. They go into the sewers. It's Logan who is called in the anonymous tip. He tries to shoot a force field. He uses his power to touch things, computers, I guess. He shoots a force field at Jake. But thankfully, Houston, this is what's crazy. She set up a bomb on a power grid. Like, presumably, she's just blown the power out for several blocks of the city.
Yeah, because he has the slowest electricity coming at him ever. And he just walked away.
Yeah, so they stop whatever bad plan Logan had, and they catch him, and he's just like, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to roll over my boss, Rossi, but I will tell you where Nika is. And they're like, that's good enough for us, I guess. Except, just like last episode, instead of Winger, though, Grout jumps in and arrests them all. Except, it's so crazy. Like, she arrests them all to prevent the episode from stopping. Except, as Jake shouts, you can't put electric handcuffs on a wire head. Which I'm just like, anyway.
She should have known that.
He's able to use his amazing electricity powers to run away. And no one tries to chase him. He's just kind of like.
I know. Jake's just like, I can't believe you let him go. And he like, you probably could still see him running away.
Grout and her cop got knocked down, but Jake could have done something. Nah.
He didn't want to wreck his jacket.
Anyway, like, basically, he runs off, and immediately after, like, Fab and Nika find out where the treasure is. So now Rossi and Logan know where it is. So they're all like, let's go get the treasure. And they're like, well, we've been eavesdropping on them. Let's also follow them and get the treasure, this 8 million bullions of whatever. And it's only at this point, as Jake is sitting there with Grout, because he's still under arrest, they basically come to a compromise. Because Grout tells them the government did lose it, but it's not this bullion. It's 4 liters of, hold on, I wrote it down here, 4 liters of mega trodian delta, a biocatalytic anti-personnel compound, which is essentially nerve gas, I guess. So I don't know. It's so confusing. It's like,
it's basically that the government is shipping weapons, illegal weapons, and they don't want people
I get the idea of like putting it under a different name. Yeah. Why ship it under the classification of something very desirable?
I know. Well, because it's stupid.
Anyway.
Let me jump in real quick. What I realized watching the last 2 episodes, and as maybe about halfway through this episode, is that the show has really settled into what the show is. You know, sometimes it takes TV shows a little while to kind of figure out what the show is now. You know what Tekwar is, and what Tekwar is a not very good show.
I mean, I don't know if it just settled into that, but
no, I think it did. At least that's how I felt. The last couple episodes, it sort of just, there it is. Just reached the plateau of, you know?
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you, but I don't know if it just got there. Anyway, now Jake and Houston rush off. This is not important, but like they're driving and they're like, Jake's like, we have to find the tracking device that they put on Fab. And I'm like, no one told you that. No one told you they put a tracking device on him.
I didn't notice that.
I was like, I guess you could have deduced it somehow, but you're not a good detective. I don't know. It was just weird. Like, it was another thing where like, oh yeah, Jake doesn't know where they are. Oh, he figured it out. Don't worry about it. Anyway, they get to the storage facility, which I will say, like last episode, when they went to that storage facility, they kind of shot it in a big power plant. Like they at least had a cool looking building for it if they didn't use it well.
And I have to say, a couple of times in the show, when they go to some of the locations, they look okay. Like this one looks okay, the other one. But when they do stuff like where Nika and what's his name, Fab. Yeah, sure. When they were up in their little tower eating their future food that looked like Korean pancakes, that was a terrible looking set.
Oh, is that...
and as comparisons, it's like, just go on locations, guys, because they don't actually look too bad when you're in these different factories and things.
Their locations person is finding good locations. Like the storage facility looks like a little bit like a Raiders of the Last Ark, like huge facility. They have they talk about how there's robots that will auto bring stuff down. They have these huge like dolly cranes that are going up bringing. They're not like well shot exactly, but they at least look interesting. They're a little bland, but they at least look gritty and futuristic.
Looks better than the sets.
Oh, 100%. Basically, Rossi grabs them, the 2 hackers, Nika and Ray, they get the case. And they're like, oh, I got the case. At which point, Jake and Houston show up, and you get the obligatory fight sequence that they have to have at the end of every episode. and it's gonna be hacker versus hacker, Nika versus Logan. Who Logan is like overpowering her in every sense of the word, and then she just like puts her VR goggles on him, and his head explodes. Like his head
it's like
gets
it didn't. I was like, oh, that seems like a real bad side effect of having all the technology put into you. That if you accidentally,
if someone puts a VR headset on your head, like they never established that like that was a problem he had.
All they had to do was have one little line of dialogue earlier on. That would have made that
because you
sense.
altered yourself this much, you've now stopped yourself from doing this thing. Or
Exactly.
This will happen. You know, it could have set it up in some way. But yeah, so she easily beats him for no reason. Jake and Rossi go up into the catwalks way above them and get in this fight, which is like
a funny fight.
It is a very
because he just hits Jake over and over with the briefcase.
well. There's clearly two stuntmen fighting on the
I know.
catwalk, and then Jake kind of gets flipped off the side. He's like holding on the side of it, like with one hand, hanging up the catwalk. And Rossi's got the case, the briefcase with the stuff in it. And he's like lazily batting him with it as they have a conversation. Like it's so like there's no energy. Like this guy's just like kind of wants to go on lunch break more than anything. He's like kind of lazily bat. I don't even remember how like they talk
both
for
just
2
fall
minutes
over.
and then both of them just fall off the catwalk. And they fall like 8 feet.
I
Like
know.
that you kind of actually get a brief shot of the catwalk and the ground. And like you realize like, oh, they weren't that high off the ground.
Like Jake could almost have, when he was hanging over, his
He
feet
could
were
have
almost touching
touched
the
the
ground.
ground.
Yeah,
Like,
I know.
I was just like, oh man, that was so funny how you chose to shoot that and then not care.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jake, now that they're on the ground, Jake grabs Rossi and tosses him to some sort of bin that's riding by.
Yeah, it was
And then
it was very convenient.
He closes the lid and you look inside and the case is broken and the gas is like oozing out.
But the guy gives the greatest
There's
performance.
a porthole for some reason there's a porthole looking into this bin that the actor shoves his whole face into.
I know.
And like a cartoon dying of poison gas, just kind of sticks his tongue out and like, oh,
I know, it's great.
Also a great GIF or whatever we'll put up on Instagram because it is that and the gun out of the dress. I don't know if they feel like they're out of a different show because they're
know.
so weird. Very, very funny though.
Very, very over the top. I loved it.
No, it was. Those are my two favorite moments of this episode. Probably of the whole show, maybe.
How interesting would it have been if Rossi had been set up from the beginning of the series as this big bad guy? And what they could have done is, because they keep showing how emotional Jake is because of Carlotta, who he like had an inappropriate relationship with as is a VR world and Fantasyland there. But what if at the beginning of the show, it was Beth who he thought died, and then he finds out that Beth's in a VR thing and he's trying to save her, but he can't. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, and then he has an arch villain or an arch enemy he has to get back at.
Yeah,
like,
and
there's
it's like it
real
has-
stakes for him.
exactly. That's what it is. There's stakes. At one point, Houston says, I know you feel bad about Carlotta. And I was like, oh, does he?
That's very early in the episode. They briefly mention Carlisle just to tie back to the same guy. But the plots are basically unrelated. Like in that final fight, it's not even like Jake is trying to avenge her. Like
Right. It's not like, oh no, Jake's going to go over the dark side by doing something terrible. It's like, no, he just has a really, as you said, a very lazy fight with this guy swinging the briefcase.
and he kind of
humorous-
just dies haphazardly, and it doesn't feel like anyone was avenged or like anything mattered. I mean, even at the end, like they're just all back at Cosmos. Nika's forgiven because Jake helped Grout get her stuff back, and everything's just back there. It's like a real who cares ending. It's like that episode, don't worry about it, which is crazy because they set up this villain 2 episodes before as like something they're gonna come back to, and they do, but in just like the most it's just like, oops, we shouldn't have left that dangling.
Right.
Here's a throwaway episode just to clean it up for us. Like it was really weird that it's just like for the first time they set up a multi-arc villain, a multi-episode villain, and it seems like they just immediately regretted that. Doing
Well,
it.
because he didn't need to be. It didn't need to be the same guy. It could have been anyone.
Could have been anyone.
And that was that episode.
Those were the episodes. Do you want to do some closing thoughts on these and give some scores?
I'm very torn on these because what I want to do is give these like zeros, but not even because they're so bad, but it's just as a cumulative sort of thing of the series. I can feel Tekwar fatigue setting in once again. I would give it a first episode, I don't know, a 5.5.
5.5.
What would you give it?
I feel like I liked it ever so slightly better than the second one.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give it a 3.
Mm-hmm.
It was not good, but it was at least I don't know. The second one was just nothing. Nothing was the second one. So
Right.
at least that one had an idea behind it.
Yeah.
And then deep cover.
A 5.
5. Just a 0.5 between these episodes for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for me, that second one was a 2. Just barely above complete drag.
Right.
I'm giving it a 2 for the 2 great gifts that are in it. It was worth it for those I get those 2 points for. All right, well, I'm gonna head over to the Continuum Drag computer and let's see what the series is averaging out at now.
See if we get to use the feedback bomb. I think I'll feel bad though, because we're so close.
Jordan, oh no!
Oh no!
We've fallen below safe operating numbers. I don't know. I didn't think of this through very well. We have to get to the escape pod.
So it's happening.
It's happening, Jordan. I'm turning that off. All right, Jordan. We get on the escape pod because it's over. We're escaping from Tech War. Do you want to use that feedback bomb?
I guess so.
Jordan,
I
have bad news.
Yeah.
Just like the movie Alien, it's not over yet. The finale has snuck onto the escape pod. We have to come back next week and watch the last episode of Tech War.
All right.
Yep, that's how it's going to end. We are going to take the escape pod, but not all the way free yet. You good with that, Jordan?
You know what it is? I have mixed feelings because it's like doing a marathon and then going, forget it at the end. I think that's what my mixed feelings are.
Jordan, it's fallen to 4.97.
That's so close.
I think it's fine though. We're gonna watch the final episode.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna go through any last stuff we want to talk about with this show. We're gonna get it all out there.
I feel like this we're having a thing, so you're like making sure I'm okay.
Yeah, we're gonna get it all out, Jordan. We're gonna get it all out next episode, so that like your soul can be cleansed from Tech War. Well, good episode, Jordan.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna have a great iced coffee wake for Tech War next episode with the episode.
Oh yeah, well that's right. Yeah,
with episode 18 of Tech War and our final podcast episode for Tech War.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll see you then.
I'll tech talk to you one last time next week, Jordan. Continuum Drag is recorded at Astrolab Studios in Toronto, Ontario. Theme music by James Rick-Siedler. Produced by Jordan Delick and Luke Black. Special thanks to Adam Wheatner, Jeff Hanley, Emily Carter, and Dwayne Wright.